The shadow former Rail Minister, Jonathan Reynolds. Mr Reynolds, thank you for joining us. Why did you resign?
Well, let me say at the start, I like Jeremy personally a great deal. I enjoyed the work I did with him. But one of the reasons I think Jeremy is quite popular within the Labour movement is that he's authentic, he's true to what he believes in. And so I think if you're a shadow minister and you want to be authentic and true to what you believe in, and you have some real doubts about the course that we've taken, and I thought particularly with the sacking of Pat McFadden late last night, that was the wrong decision to make for the wrong reasons. If on principle, as I did, I didn't agree with that decision, I think the honourable thing to do is to resign, and I think you can do that in a way which still supports the party but makes clear your own views, your own principles because of that. So that's why I've decided to leave this morning.
So you've resigned because Pat McFadden was sacked?
Yes, I think the decisions that were given and I think the objections to the statement that Pat made were not things that I could agree with. I think Pat gave a statement which the vast majority of Labour Party members and British people would agree with, and I wasn't happy to see him sacked, and the reasons then that came out, the reasons that were given to endorse that sacking were not things that I could agree with. And in addition to that, to be honest, when I looked at the direction we were taking in the reshuffle, I just thought the best thing for me to do as a Labour MP loyal to the Labour Party, wants to see a Labour government, was to have the freedom to speak out from the backbenches about the things I think Labour should be doing. And I think there's nothing dishonourable about that. I think that's what we need more people to do if they think that's the right thing to do. Equally, if people want to serve, that's the right thing to do for them as well. But it's each and every MP's decision, and I hope people respect the decision that I've made. With
respect, you are not being loyal to the party, though, are you? Being loyal to Pat McFadden?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think what I want to see is a Labour government. I want to see the Labour Party in a position to become a Labour government in future, and if there are serious doubts I've got about the direction we're going in on certain areas, I think it is my duty to make clear my own views on that. I've got my own mandate in my own constituency, my own people to represent within that too, and I think that's important. The party structures, they're not just entirely about the leadership and the positions taken, they're about individual MPs, and if those MPs don't feel that they can honourably be on the front bench, then the honourable thing to do is to resign.
So what's fundamentally changed since you thought it was a good idea to accept the job back in September, apart from Pat McFadden being sacked?
I'm still pleased I took that job back in September. I think what was clear then was there was an attempt to make a broad-based, as wide as possible, shadow administration as could be, and when Jeremy sent an olive branch to lots of us who didn't vote for him, I think the honourable thing to do then was to accept that and become part of that shadow government. But clearly that's not worked out to anyone's advantage, or it's felt that way. And I think looking at what is now required, there's clearly going to be a more disciplined, if you like, more coherent message on foreign and defence policies. And I don't object at all to the leader's right to do that. If the position that we'll be taking as a Labour Party is not one that I'm entirely comfortable with, then I don't think I can be part of that now.
Not given him long, though, have you, to settle into the job? X Factor contestants get longer than that.
Well, I'm not sure whether that's the case anymore, but look, it's all about the decisions that are taken, not the timescale that they are taken on. There's clearly been a big change in the Labour front bench yesterday, late last night, when those decisions came out. And I don't think, being true to my own conscience, I could have said that I think those decisions are the right ones to make. And so I just felt I couldn't continue, and I didn't discuss that with anyone else other than with my wife this morning. I sent a letter of resignation. I tried to make clear, be very dignified and reasonable with Jeremy as to the reasons I thought I couldn't continue, and indeed to praise him on the areas where I think he's said and done the right thing. But if I don't feel it's the right thing for me to do, I need people to respect that decision.
Is he the right man to lead the Labour Party?
He's got a huge mandate to lead the Labour Party, and I do not object to that mandate. It's all, well, clearly, we've had 4 candidates for leader. We've all voted for different people, so we're not going to pretend we didn't vote for different people, just a relatively short period of time moving on. But I think what we need in the party, and let's be clear, I'm not entirely convinced, to be honest, that any of the leadership candidates could have honestly said they'd been would be in a strong position to make the Labour Party win the next general election had any of them won. I think that means that we need a serious and quite difficult debate about where Labour is going. And there are limitations, reasonable limitations, that are put on people who are on the front bench. And if I don't want to accept those limitations, I want the chance to speak about the economy, about welfare, about foreign policy, as well as transport, which is what I was a shadow minister for. If I want that freedom, I think I've got to do the honourable thing and do it from the backbenches.
Oh, that was a politician's answer. That's not what I asked you. I asked you whether Mr Corbyn was the right man to lead the Labour Party.
But he has a mandate to lead the Labour Party,
I
and
know
I
you said
respect
that, and
mandate.
I said at the time that that's not what I'm asking you. So if I asked you a third time, would you say the same thing again?
Well, he's the right man because he's the man who won the election. I think that's an entirely
do you think he's the right man? I'm not asking about that.
I didn't vote for Jeremy. I've never denied that I didn't vote for Jeremy. It's a public.
But is he the right man to lead the Labour Party?
Well, I wouldn't have voted for him, and I didn't vote for him in the contest, but he is the right man because he has the mandate to lead the Labour Party. And people like myself who are resigning today, we're not objecting, I think, to that mandate. We respect that mandate. But that doesn't mean we feel the right thing for ourselves to do is to serve on his front bench.
What about the other front benchers? What would you perhaps say to them? I'm thinking particularly of people like, Andy Burnham.
No, I think everybody has to make their own decision based on what they feel is best. I think there's honour in leaving. I think there's honour in staying, and I think trying to divide the party into those two camps is not a helpful thing to do. I know there are colleagues of mine who'd have liked me to stay, and I know there are colleagues of mine who wished I hadn't accepted a job in the first place. But I do what I think is best for my area, for myself as a Labour MP representing those views, and I'll always put that first, regardless of what other colleagues may think about that. So I'm happy for everyone to make their own decision on this, and I don't object to anyone staying or indeed leaving if they've done that after I've made my decision today.
And Mr Reynolds, will you sleep safer in your bed knowing that Emily Thornberry is in charge of your policies, views on defence?
Well, Jeremy has clearly wanted a one view to be coming from the senior members of the Shadow Cabinet on defence policy. Clearly that is awkward for some of us because it's different to what official party policy is, and the only way we're going to resolve that is by having perhaps a proper process at conference, a decision that we decide whether we're going to continue with our existing policy or move to something different. But clearly I've got objections to some of the things that will now be becoming officially from our front bench on that, and again the only honourable thing to do to respond to that is to make sure you're able to speak freely about what you think is right for your area because of that. But
Kevin Jones, who knows a lot about defence, says that she knows nothing about defence. He also said that the Deputy Leader, Tom Watson, had serious reservations about her being offered the job. Nevertheless, she was. What do you think of that?
Well, those are strong words. I think a lot of Labour MPs are comfortable with the official policy of the Labour Party on defence matters. That will be the case at all levels of the party. But clearly there are different views on this. There have always been different views stretching back really back to the 1950s when this first became an issue, when the first Labour government took that decision to get us a nuclear weapon in the UK and for us to be a nuclear power. There's always been a split on this, so it comes up time and time again. But clearly it's very difficult. But I understand why Jeremy wants a Defence Secretary who has the same view as him. But obviously I'd like him to try and understand where other members with different views to him are coming from within the PLP too.
Final thought just before we let you go, Mr Reynolds, looking at the lineup of the Shadow Cabinet and the Shadow Ministers as they stand today, are they a good team to perhaps lead the country come the next election?
Well, they could be. I think nearly every member of the Labour Party will probably regret that the last few days have been spent talking about a reshuffle rather than about the flooding problems, rather than about the rail fare increases and, of course, the Conservatives' problems that they've got with the EU referendum. So if we are able to take on the Tories, that would be a good team doing that. But I think what I am worried about is we're giving the wrong impression with some of the decisions that we've made in this reshuffle, particularly on foreign policy, and we won't get a chance, frankly, to make that argument for a fairer, better Britain if people are worried about our credentials on defence and foreign policy.
Great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us on Sky News.